I've always hated laundry. It's just not my favorite. I like the mental gymnastics of when to put things in and put it in the dryer, put it in the washer, fold it, like the timing of everything. I just don't like it. And after having 2 kids, I had endless amounts of laundry. So we had come home from a business trip, and it was a Saturday, and we had like T-ball opening day and 3 birthday parties. And I'm at the ballpark, and I'm ordering groceries on my phone, and I'm like, man, there needs to be a laundry button, because that does not take nearly as much time as laundry does. And I had this friend who was a stay-at-home mom, and she was always asking me, what can I do for your marketing company? Can I do social posts? Can I do blogging to earn extra income? And I thought, ooh, I don't have anything like that, but you could do my laundry.
We would like to thank our title sponsor, B1 Bank. B1 Bank knows that entrepreneurs like you are always thinking one step ahead. So you need banking solutions that can keep up. It begins with lending. Does your business need working capital or financing for new equipment? How about a real estate or a construction loan? Good news, the B1 lending team is ready to learn your goals and help you find the best lending option available. Now let's talk about uncomplicating your daily cash flow. B1 offers a full array of treasury management services that let you collect funds faster, pay funds more efficiently, and access your information with powerful online tools. Most importantly, B1 understands the value of working with local nonprofits to build a stronger community. They believe in giving back through hands-on involvement with their B1 Community Outreach Program because it's simply the right thing to do. B1 Bank. Be uncomplicated. To learn more, visit b1bank.com. Equal housing lender, member FDIC. Hello, I'm Andrew McClendon, your host of the NXT Entrepreneur Podcast. We're recording here from the Propel Productions podcast studio in Baton Rouge, and we welcome our guest, Miss Laurel Hess, founder and CEO of Hampr. Laurel, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for coming in. So, tell us about Hampr.
So Hampr is an on-demand laundry app that is essentially Uber for laundry.
And so you are connecting those that need their laundry done with those that are willing to do it.
Right. We're a peer-to-peer marketplace.
Yeah.
So we have people who are stay-at-home parents, retirees that will process laundry and be matched up with people who just need help.
Oh, that's cool. And so when did you start this?
We launched in January of 2020.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. And you've grown into some markets. So tell us about where you started, what market you're in, and where you're at now.
So our home market is Lafayette, Louisiana, which is where our headquarters is located. And we are in Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Austin, Houston, Dallas, Phoenix, Denver, Colorado, Greenville, South Carolina, San Antonio, and Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
In 20 months?
22 months, 14 cities.
That's amazing. And so your ability to do that is because your platform is designed to expand, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So we're going to get into the whole story about what led up to that and how you started it. But I was curious at this point, when you came up with this idea, was it pretty clear that you would have to like storm the country in order for it to work?
Yeah. The idea came from a personal pain point of mine. So I knew it had to be something that was going to reach a Lafayette, Louisiana. And so that meant it had to be super, super scalable.
Yeah. That's fascinating. So we'll dial it back a little bit. So I was curious, you grew up where?
I grew up in Dallas, Texas.
In Dallas. And were you entrepreneurial as a kid?
Not really.
Yeah.
I was kind of the nerd. Loved to read, editor of the paper, but not entrepreneurial.
Yeah. And so, but you ended up in Louisiana. When did that first happen?
College.
And you went to?
Loyola, New Orleans.
It's a beautiful place.
I loved it.
And what did you study there?
I studied broadcast production. I thought I was going to make movies.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Along with, I imagine, quite a few others at that time. Or that was kind of where it was. It's about the time that was really starting.
It was right before.
In Louisiana.
Yeah. I think just when I graduated was when the movie scene really picked up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so Louisiana had these tax credit programs, right?
Right.
And then we had, at least here in Baton Rouge, we had some, film production facilities built. And then next thing you know, Hollywood is coming and filming major movies here, and all sorts of side businesses are starting. And then you saw a lot of people seeing that as a viable career option, right?
Right.
And so you were in the midst of that.
Sort of. It kind of picked up after I left, and I had a weird departure because of Hurricane Katrina. My fall semester, we ended up evacuating to Lafayette, and I went to UL for a semester. Met a Cajun boy and fell in love. So wasn't long for New Orleans that time around.
So you got run out of town because of Katrina, and you finished your last semester.
I did my first semester at UL in the fall, my senior year, and went back to Loyola to graduate in the spring.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, that's good. Yeah, it was a scary time back then for New Orleans. But you transitioned to marketing pretty quickly after graduation?
Yeah.
How'd that work out?
My first job, moved back home to Dallas and got a job at Weber Shandwick, which is a large PR firm. And I started doing PR for American Airlines and Verizon Wireless, and I loved it. So I was bitten by that bug, and that's when I transitioned fully into marketing.
And American Airlines, they're headquartered out of Dallas?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So that's where all those decisions are made. So you worked on real deals.
Oh, yeah. That was I was on, not one of my clients, but I was on that account for sure.
Yeah. That must have been exciting. So, but you did end up back in New Orleans, right?
I went back to Lafayette, scooped up that boy I fell in love with, and we went back to New Orleans.
And did you head that way because of employment, or?
Yeah, so I had gotten an offer to be the event marketing coordinator at the Superdome and the New Orleans Arena. Just a chance meeting with the director of sales one weekend. Actually, didn't want to go to the NBA All-Star game. Got invited by my best friend's family. Was going to make an excuse not to go. Forgot to. Wound up there and met her, and it changed my life.
And so she offered you a job?
Yeah, they had just announced that job that day, that they were going to make that hire, and I just happened to be there. We met, connected, and I said to my best friend right after I left, I want that job. And I went home and I applied, and she had my boss had that same feeling, like, oh, I like this girl. And so we connected, and I got the job a month later.
So that sounds kind of like an exciting gig.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
really fun.
But I don't have a clue what it entails. So what all did you do?
So initially I did event marketing. So any live ticketed event that was coming to the arena, I was responsible for marketing it for the venue. I would do media placements. I'd work with the promoters. I would do live appearances. I worked almost every show in the media pit, escorting photographers. And then 2 years in, I transitioned to sales and marketing manager, where I was doing corporate convention sales on top of overseeing the event marketing.
So how does it work with the Saints? Are they just like one of the customers?
So Saints, I worked for the company that was hired, the private company hired to manage the buildings. So we actually didn't work with the Saints directly. They were a tenant of the building.
Right. And so would they have had like a contract for this many of weekends or whatever a year?
Yeah, they had certain usage over the facility for their games, and they had their whole other event staff that was completely separate from ours.
Yeah, so when you look at like facilities like that, like I'm thinking of the Circuit of the Americas F1 track in Austin. Mm-hmm. Well, that's one weekend a year.
Right.
Right, and they have this, tremendously expensive facility built there. So they have to obviously find uses, for it all year long, and they have hundreds and hundreds of events there. It's just always surprising to me. Mm-hmm. So same thing with what you're doing there. So like, what are the different kinds of acts or shows or revenue generators that run through the that you saw?
Well, we had the live ticketed events like Monster Jam and really big concerts, Essence Fest every year. And that ran through mostly the executive team. I was on the private corporate convention side, and I would handle mostly private conferences and conventions, the Home and Garden Show, the Boat Show. Those would come through. Huge ELCA convention that they would have, a big youth group convention in town, thousands of people. We would book those events.
So some of them are occupying, I guess, in the whole floor of the Superdome, and some are like in big conference rooms or adjoining suite kind of things.
Yeah, a lot of my work was the floor of the dome, and then the private bunker club lounges underneath the plaza seating. I booked out those events, and I did very little in the arena. Arena had a lot of ticketed events coming through it, so not many private events there.
And during that time, that's when Champion Square was built out.
Yeah, that was 2010. We opened Champion Square. Wild time in my life, basically demolishing the New Orleans Center to build an outdoor event venue, and demolishing the old Macy's to build out a private event rental space, Club 44.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. I'd been there a number of times, but it's that Champion Square I think of as an outdoor music venue, right?
Yep.
So that was another space to lease out for you guys, and
yeah. So my boss, who was the director of corporate convention sales, did a lot of work in building out and picking the finishes, and I was sort of her support for that. And she and I together built out the initial rental packages for that space.
So I've read about a couple of interesting stories that you've shared previously about your employment during that time. But I was wondering if you would share with us what are some of your most memorable experience there while you worked there at the Superdome.
Oh, I've had a couple. There was one time I was 9 months pregnant. I was working the Final Four, and I had people all day asking me, when are you gonna have that baby? And I'm like, oh, hopefully not today. And then I actually got stuck in the elevator going up to the press box, and that happened off and on. So I just didn't worry about it. But I thought, oh, here we go again. And then one time I was there, when the lights went out in the Super Bowl, and I'm in the side that didn't lose power. And I just see the TV's off. And so I call into the control that the TV's off, and they're like, hold the line. Half the building doesn't have power. I'm like, oh, okay.
So we're all watching that, obviously. And that was not long after Katrina, right?
That was 2013.
Yes. So it was a few years. But it was like New Orleans was rebuilding, and it was, they were doing some great things. A lot of people were like, should New Orleans even come back? A lot of people not familiar with New Orleans, and obviously who didn't live here. I'm thinking of some politician types that didn't want to fund some funds to rebuild New Orleans, but they really did some great things coming back. And this was, I remember it being like a showcase opportunity for New Orleans, and then half the lights went out, and it's like, oh no.
It was literally something we had been talked about many times. We were very concerned. I remember at one point, and I wish I could remember exactly what it was, but it was, do we do this one fix that was less expensive, or do we go ahead and rewire everything to the box? And we did the rewiring. We went through the effort to make sure that would not happen, and then it happened.
Oh, man.
It was brutal.
How long, remind me how long that lasted?
I actually don't. I can't recall. Literally, I remember being with two of my coworkers, and we just sat down. We were so devastated. Yeah.
And well, it seems that it came back on during the telecast, right? It was, I can't remember if it was 15 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever, but
too long.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, everyone was concerned. So you did that for how long?
I was there for 5 years.
Yeah. And then you moved on. Did you head back to Lafayette at that point?
Yeah, so we had a baby in 2012, and my husband actually had gotten a job in Lafayette. So we were he was commuting back and forth with the baby because I worked a lot. And finally we made the decision. His work was like, you have to be here now full time. So we ended up moving back to his hometown. That's how we wound up in Lafayette. And
so you left that job, and you ended up getting into the marketing business. Tell us how that worked out.
Yeah, I started in Lafayette at Foster Marketing, which was B2B oil and gas, and I loved it. Great group of people, really got to learn B2B side of marketing. And then 3 years in, after I'd had another baby, decided maybe it's time to strike out on my own and see what I can do by myself. And I had some people who were wanting to be my clients, so I said, okay. And so I did it. It was really scary.
And the name of that company was?
That was Regroup Marketing.
Regroup. And you did that for a while?
I did that for a couple months. And then I had a friend of a friend who said, hey, this my company, it was a web development company. He was like, me and my sister company are spinning off the marketing departments of our web development companies. Do you want to run it? And at first I was like, no, I don't think I want to. But they're like, you can have full control. Bring your clients in. You can build it from the ground up. And so I said, okay. And that's how I got to be president of Rally Marketing.
Rally Marketing. Mm-hmm. And you did, what type projects was Rally working on?
They did a lot of digital marketing. So my background at this point had been a mix of traditional and digital, but I was always way more interested in digital targeting, Facebook, blogging, those types of things. And that is also my husband's core competency. So he kind of came on board, and together we just built out this digital agency that niched out in just digital. Which
at that time, I'm guessing that a lot of your clients were looking for that digital solution.
Yes, it's one of the best trackable things you can do and measurable. So you can see, I put this many dollars in, I got exactly this out. And so people really, really liked that.
Yeah. Print advertising can be a little frustrating in that respect that, they used to tell you you just got to keep running them. Mm-hmm. People just got to see it. Well, it was
how many people saw it? Like, you can't really tell,
yeah.
And we can't really tell you. We can guess.
I mean, we knew the circulation or whatever, but when you can see all the analytics from social media, that's pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. But then your husband ended up joining you over there, right? Did you say that?
Yeah. I had started in September, and pretty early on, I realized I was going to need help, and he's a brilliant strategist. And so I said, hey, can you come help me run this? And so he came on as the vice president in November. Oh, huh. And now after I moved on to Hampr, he became the president.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. That's cool. So how was that working together, president and vice president?
It was the only way it could have happened was that I was in charge.
So I'm guessing you were president at the office and president at home as well.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Okay. So all of this kind of leads up to your backstory about how you start your company, Hampr. Mm-hmm. And so tell us how that, how that happened.
Yeah, I've always hated laundry. It's just not my favorite. I like the mental gymnastics of when to put things in and put it in the dryer, put it in the washer, fold it, like the timing of everything. I just don't like it. And after having 2 kids, I had endless amounts of laundry. So we had come home from a business trip, and it was a Saturday, and we had like T-ball opening day and 3 birthday parties. And I'm at the ballpark, and I'm ordering groceries on my phone, and I'm like, man, there needs to be a laundry button, because that does not take nearly as much time as laundry does. And I had this friend who was a stay-at-home mom, and she was always asking me, what can I do for your marketing company? Can I do social posts? Can I do blogging to earn extra income? And I thought, ooh, I don't have anything like that, but you could do my laundry. So that was like the genesis of Hampr.
And so did that actually happen?
I didn't actually ask her to do my laundry, but
that planted the seed.
I had that thought, yeah. And that's literally that weekend. It was April 19th, 2018, and I had this like aha moment of, oh my gosh, that's how this will work. And I had been ruminating on it for years. Like, how can this happen? I need someone to help me do laundry, and that was my like moment. And the next day, I pitched it to my partners.
So, what did that initial pitch look like? In your initial idea, if you can remember back to that point, it wasn't that long ago, but I mean, yeah. I know you must go through 1,000 iterations. What did the model look like that you first envisioned? It's actually exactly what we ended up doing. I was, and it's funny, I almost didn't pitch it. I was sitting in the partner meeting. We had a partner meeting every Monday, and there'd been a lull in conversation, and I'm horrible at letting conversation stop. So I just said, I have an idea for an app, like out of nowhere. And I pitched them this idea of Hampr, which is like an Uber for laundry. And they
they were like, huh. And one of them was really kind of trying to poke holes in it and dig. And I had an answer for everything. And he was like, I think we could do this. So he latched onto it, and we started to build it out.
And you were doing that at Rally?
Yes, I was very, very fortunate. I was able to build my business while also running my other company. It was crazy, but I was lucky.
So did Rally, kind of become part of the deal?
Yes. Yeah.
I see. Mm-hmm. And, okay. So when you think about it, you have, you have a platform, right? You're selling a service, but you're not selling a product. So when I think of, companies that use social media to expand their revenues or whatever, they can have an app that makes it easier for a customer to interface with their business, and maybe they pre-ordered their Starbucks coffee or whatever, but they have the buildings there and they have the personnel, and then you look at, other models where there are no real assets, and you have the Uber model. What do you call that model, that type of business model?
A peer-to-peer marketplace.
Peer-to-peer marketplace. Mm-hmm. So you have someone that needs their laundry clean and someone that's willing to do it.
Right.
Drive, pick it up, wash it, dry it, fold it, and return it, and do a good job of it, right? And then you create the platform, and there's a cost to do that, right? And then you get Hampr gets is that how it works?
Yep.
I mean, Hampr gets a slice of the action.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing all the marketing and the promotion, and we're helping these washers build their book of business, and we're satisfying and maintaining quality standards for the customers. So in order to do that, we have to take a little bit of the revenue, but most of it goes to the washer.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you've got to make money, and they have to make money, right? And it has to be affordable for the customers. So I wanted to ask you some more about that. Let's sneak in a word from our sponsor, and we'll pick that up on the other side. One of our sponsors, MBD Maintenance, is excited to announce that after 25 years, they're rebranding their company name to Pivotal. It's the same ownership, same staff, same location. Just a new name that better represents the services that they provide their clients across the Southeast United States. Pivotal does commercial building construction and renovation. They do tenant improvement work in retail and office facilities. They do installation of dock doors in distribution centers, storm and fire damage repair, and catastrophe recovery for national disasters. The team at Pivotal is simply the best. They're experienced, they crush schedules, and they have an impeccable safety record. If Pivotal can help you with your next project, you can find them online at pivotalperforms.com. And we are back with Laurel Hess, founder and CEO of Hampr. Okay, so you've got the idea, you've shared it, the initial response is positive, and the company that you're president of is going to help make this happen. But you didn't own that company. You were employed there. Mm-hmm. And, okay, so help me understand. You can have an idea, right? But can you end up making it affordable, right? And so I imagine there's times where you're thinking about what someone is willing to pay for that service and what someone's going to charge to do the work. And is there enough, does that work? And then is there enough for Hampr to run the business and help it grow, et cetera, et cetera. So what did that look like? I mean, and then I want to get into let's answer that first.
Yeah, well, it's important to know I built this company so I would never have to do laundry again. So I started with a really strong hypothesis of what I would pay for the service.
Got it.
And that was my initial thought. It was like, I'll pay $10 a load, and I wouldn't mind paying for a membership fee if it was something that gave me transparent, easy, flat rate pricing. And so I started with that and ended up doing a survey. I didn't want to just go on my gut, so I did a survey, and I surveyed a bunch of moms and women who were all across ages, some that had kids, some that didn't. They were retirees. They were, maybe just out of college, just trying to get a gauge. Would you use this? How much would you pay for it? And which name do you like? And we had about 100 people respond to that survey. Cool. And that's how we got Hampr.
And overwhelmingly positive?
Yeah, there were a couple people that said, no, that's weird. I don't want a stranger touching my clothing. And I thought, I bet people said the same thing about Uber. I don't want to get in a car with a stranger. And I figured it was just an uphill battle we had to climb.
Yeah, I mean, would you want your, 17-year-old daughter, driving in the back of a car home from a concert? I mean, I don't think so, but it happens all the time, right? Mm-hmm. But they had to work through that, So, okay, so when you're at what point do you start working on the actual app? I mean, your business is the app,
right?
It is your website. It's a digital model, right? And so, at what point do you say, okay, we've done some research, and now we need to start spending some money on developing some software? Did one follow the other? Did they happen simultaneously?
For us, we built out the model. We knew that it was, we're using 1099 contractors. That was going to be risky. We knew we had to have the legal side locked down. So we kind of started there with getting all the independent contractor agreements in order and kind of doing as much housekeeping as we could. The bag, everything hinges on the bag, the size of the bag. We had to make sure that was right and solid, and that hit that flat rate one load in a consumer washing machine. So we had a lot of legwork there. My co-founder actually flew to China to make sure that those bags were done correctly and to the standards that we needed. It had to be waterproof. There were very unique things about our bag that we had to make sure were right. And then we built the app. So we had a whole year into the business before we actually started building the tech.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, so explain to us how the membership part of it works. So
it's an annual membership fee. It's $39 per year, and that gets you access to the platform. But also the first year comes with these 4 pop-up hampers. And the hampers are how we offer the flat rate, $10 to $15 per load. Depends which market you're in. I think all here in Louisiana, they're $10. And so that load fits about 80% capacity of a consumer washing machine.
I see.
So that's how we make sure it's good for the washer. It's not going to be overstuffed, and it's easy, flat rate, transparent for the member.
Yeah, but if those hampers, if those bags that you send them like 4 as part of that membership? For
the first year, yes.
Yeah, and then, but if those things weren't built right, you did your quality control, but if they weren't and you had to replace those things, that wouldn't work well.
Would have been a nightmare
for your model. Mm-hmm. So, okay, so there's something here that I really don't know how it works, and it's that software of building out an app. To me, it seems that you can have this idea, but you have to build out this app, and this app has to work, right? Mm-hmm. And you can improve it, and after you get it working right to begin with, but you got to put all that energy into making sure it all works, and on the software side, as well as on the whole, peer-to-peer side of it. But what was that experience like for you? Y'all didn't do that in-house.
No, well, we kind of did. We hired a technical co-founder, Ryan, who's our CTO, and he just handled everything. He really walked in and brought a level of sophistication to the platform. The first thing he said to me and my co-founder Spencer was, "I'm not building this. I will make sure it gets built, but we're going to make sure we get the right people on this." So we were lucky enough in Lafayette to be among the waiter crowd. So we talked to their head of engineering. One of their rockstar developers actually built our front end. So we were able to get that built with people who'd already kind of been there and done that on the marketplace side.
And Waiter is the food delivery app.
Correct.
Out of Lafayette, right? Mm-hmm. So at what point early on is Rally saying, okay, this is a great idea. And it must have been terribly exciting. Mm-hmm. But they must also have been saying, you as well as the other owners there, like, what is this really going to cost us? Like, is this going to surprise us? Is it going to be, haven't done it before, is it going to be more than what we think? And is it going to possibly be so much that it jeopardizes our business? I mean, were those conversations had? Or
well, Rally really didn't have much stake in it. It was really me and my co-founder, who was one of the owners of Rally. They did all the branding, but they kind of just let us do what we needed to do. So we had a completely separate entity. So it was no risk on Rally's part. It was just a lot of hours on mine trying to do both jobs.
Yeah, I see.
And so from there, when we got Ryan on board and we started to spec out what this would take, we started to figure out what are those hard costs. And we were lucky that we had the guidance of the waiter team to say, well, someone could do this for equity only, or we'll do this for this hourly rate. And so we were able to kind of cobble together an initial budget and say, okay, well, let's raise a little round. So we did a friends and family round and got us to our MVP into market launch.
And so tell me what that means, MVP.
That's minimum viable product. So it's just what you need to enter the market. And we probably overbuilt our MVP because I didn't want to come out with something that just would prove that people wanted on-demand laundry, because I knew they did. I wanted to come up with something that would actually fulfill their needs. And we've been running the MVP with a few changes for almost 2 years, which is insane.
So how long did it take for you to get from start to MVP?
From the company start or from the
app from development? when you started the app?
6 months. So actually very fast.
Yeah, it seems like it. I mean, that seems like really, really reasonable, Yeah.
I think we were lucky. We kind of Waiter had given us a head start. They had the core competencies. They had kind of already made missteps along the way that they learned from, and we got the benefit of their expertise. So I think we overbuilt the MVP, and we did it quickly because we had experienced people on our side.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, so your first round was friends and family, mm-hmm. right? How long was it before you had to go for another round?
About a year. Yeah, we were actually going to raise another round right before the pandemic hit, and that did not work out because of the timing and everything. Right. But we were very lucky. We were able to pitch the Lafayette General venture arm in Lafayette, and they have a group of healthcare providers, and they gave us an investment that I still say to this day, like, helped us tremendously through the pandemic. In a time of uncertainty, we were able to repurpose the platform to deliver prescription drugs.
And so the investment was specifically for that.
Yes.
And so did they come find you, or did you?
Yeah. So Cian Robinson used to run the venture part of Lafayette General, and they had heard of us. And so he called us in and said, could you do this to deliver prescription? Is there another use case other than laundry? And at first we were like, no. And then I looked at Ryan and he's like, oh, we built a last mile delivery platform, didn't we? And I'm like, I think we did.
Yeah. So when you talk about last mile, but that's not how you would describe Hampr.
No, but at the core of it, it is what it is. It's moving things from A to B.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, you're moving laundry from A to B. Mm-hmm. And, if you look at Uber Eats or whatever, they're moving food and you're just moving prescriptions.
Right.
Okay. So, you've got Hampr going. And you've done your first round, you got to MVP, you built it out a little better. When did you get your first revenue? When did you get your first dollar of revenue through the app?
Oh, in January of 2020.
Which is when you started, right?
Right.
So your MVP, I guess really what I'm saying is, like after that MVP, what did that go live thing look like? I mean, you go through this testing and...
Our testing was very fast. We got the apps in November of 2019. We thought we would have this beta period, and then we realized, do we need that? Can we just launch? Like, it's not going to be crazy. So we did. We actually just launched without really doing a beta. So when we went live on January 15th, 2020, that was live for everybody.
Oh, wow. And so how does the payment part work? Like, what modules or whatever in the app do you have to engage in it to make it secure? And is that just like plug and play stuff?
Yeah, we're living in this age where a lot of people have figured out how to integrate a lot of different platforms. So we don't have to build out our own payment processor. We integrate with Stripe. So Stripe is API'd into our app, and that's how we do all the payment processing and the payouts to the washers.
And when you went through your testing, you're testing all that, obviously, and it was like, look, this works. Let's just go for it.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And so how long, what did that initial trajectory look like for you? You're at, I mean, you got January, February, and beginning of March, the world changes, right?
Right.
So what did those first 2 months look like before COVID hit?
They were great. I mean, first month out, we had 78 members join the platform in the first month. I think it was maybe a little like 72 in February. And then it kind of dipped down in March. But we rebounded fairly quickly. People came back on in April, May. We started to get a lot of frontline healthcare workers because laundry was deemed essential. We could keep operating. And we just realized we had a different demographic now. It wasn't busy mom. It was busy professionals. So we pivoted our marketing. We still grew despite the pandemic. And then in January of 2021, I think people had a lot more confidence going out in the world. And we really figured out our marketing, and we grew 142% from Q1 to Q2 this year. And we went from 115,000 in revenue to $1 million in a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And was that all in the Lafayette market?
It was across all of our markets.
But I mean, so let's talk about how you grew out your markets initially in Lafayette.
Yep.
And then what was your timeline for the second market?
So we launched Lafayette in January, and then we launched Baton Rouge in March. So actually the day of the shutdown, I was driving home from launching Baton Rouge. I thought, well, that's not going to go well.
So what does a launch look like for you? I mean, when you have an app, and I guess you have to do homework before and get your washers lined up. And
yeah, actually, we've been able to scale supply and demand at the same time. So as soon as we identify an area, and it can either be based on market demand, so we have a lot of people requesting the service, or it's something that matches our demographic profile. And then we'll just draw a boundary. We might hire about 3 or 4 new washers, have them onboarded, and then we can launch the market. Because people can't use the service right when they sign up, they have to get their membership kit. We have a little bit, like 3 or 4 day wiggle room to onboard washers when we onboard new members. So we can launch them. I decided to launch Austin in one day. I stood up and I said, we're launching Austin today. And we all did it.
And so what does that look like? I mean, how is it simply, putting out in the, social media world that like we're now open in Austin, and then connecting the dots?
A little bit.
Is there a little fanfare? Are you there?
We don't need to put someone in the market to open the market. We'll work with local people on boots on the ground to sort of spread the word, some trusted people in that area, and then we'll run Facebook, Instagram ads, and sometimes we'll do a press release. But we let the network effect take it. So it's not always gangbusters day one, but within a month or two, the flywheel's going, and then the market's starting to pick up.
Okay, so how do you market Hampr?
Mostly through digital. So Facebook, Instagram, targeted ads.
And boosting
Posts. Yeah. TikTok is actually an interesting channel for us. We just started testing TikTok last month.
So, just everything's digital.
Right.
Right. Yeah. That's cool. Okay. So let's talk about how the app actually works, because it seems like there's some flexibility if you found someone that you like. Well, it's kind of like Uber. You can put an order out there and then anyone can show up, right? Tell us how that works.
Yeah, so you get your hampers in, you fill them up, and you'd scan them. You can put preferences in. So if you want that load washed on hot, that load washed on cold, that all goes in the app. It gets claimed. It goes out then to the washer app, and the washers will see it, claim the order. If they are like, oh, I'm nearby and I can do 2 more loads, they'll claim it, come to your home, pick it up, bring it back to their home, wash, dry, fold, and then bring it back to you the next day. If you like one and thought, oh, she did a fabulous job, you can favorite her and she'll get, or him, and they will get first preference on your order for about 15 minutes the next time you place it.
So, so do the washers get like dings on their phone, like there's something up?
They get, yes. Actually, initially we didn't have that. They just had to check the app constantly. And that was one of the first things we did. They were begging. They're like, please, notifications with sound. So we did that about a year ago.
So if I was getting my clothes washed by Hampr, and someone had done an excellent job, and you just like how they folded it or whatever, you could find a way to manipulate the app to where you could get that particular person by favoriting them.
Yep.
So that's cool. And I guess the reverse is kind of true as well.
We actually don't have it the other way around. The washers, they kind of know what, they can't see the address when an order comes up, but after a while they figure out, and they'll be able to see, oh, that one has a heart on it. So that's someone who's favorited me, and they're more apt to take that.
But somebody wanted their clothes washed, they could block somebody or whatever, so they could. There's an adaptability or whatever in the app to help you get what you want. Right. Just like on Uber, if you don't like a particular driver or whatever. So where are you at now? You mentioned the markets, but where are you at employee wise? How many employees does it take to run up? Where are you at now? Right now
we have 11 full-time employees. So we're actually very lean for as large as we are revenue-wise. Only one customer support person, and she's a rock star. So she was running customer support when we had 500 members, and she has it now when we're almost at 3,000. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, it must say something about your service that you don't have too many people.
That's part of
calling
it.
For support.
Yeah, we're lucky that everyone on the team is super passionate for Hampr and really dedicated to what we're doing. So she just goes above and beyond. Even when it's not her weekend, we try to rotate her off, and she'll still jump in, and we're like, please take a break.
Yeah. So you were president at Rally Marketing, and you started Hampr, the story you told us. And at what point did you go to Hampr full time?
Oh, that was really hard for me. It was a slow transition. I started to do more and more Hampr right before launch. And then when we launched, I actually moved offices because people kept coming into my office asking me rally questions. And I wasn't able to get things done that I needed to get done. So it was probably 3 months after launch that I made the official transition away.
Still in the same building?
It was for a while. And then I actually we moved buildings shortly after the pandemic.
Well, that's fantastic growth. Let's take a quick pause, get in a word from our sponsor, and we will be right back. We would like to thank GearTrain for their support of the NXT Entrepreneur Podcast. GearTrain is a national program management company that specializes in the inspection and audit of conveyor systems, VRCs, robotics, and material handling equipment. GearTrain also manages routine maintenance and repair programs, as well as emergency callouts for clients all across the United States. GearTrain technicians have the experience to keep your automated equipment systems running at peak output. For all of your inspection, audit, and maintenance needs, reach out to Gear Train. They can be found online at geartrainperforms.com. And we are back with Laurel Hess, CEO of Hampr. So, Laurel, I know that you have engaged in a couple of business incubators. I think one in New Orleans and one in Austin. And we have interviewed a couple of your alumni from the Ideal Village Incubator. We had Lauren Bercier and Sam Brunner and Terry Broussard. All, tech, e-commerce or app type businesses, which I found fascinating. But I don't really know exactly how they work still. So can you give our listeners an insight of like how a business incubator works, what they do for you, how you engage with them, how are you there physically, or how they mentor or coach you?
So we did 2 at the same time, which I don't recommend. It was very stressful and very time consuming. We got into Village X, which is Idea Village Incubator or Accelerator in New Orleans, and it started at the same time that Techstars Austin started, which was the other accelerator we had gotten into at the same time. Techstars is extremely competitive. They only take about 1% of their applicants. So we were very, very fortunate, and we knew we had to do both. We had a mentor actually in New Orleans, Lydia Winkler, who's the COO of RentCheck, and she had gone through both programs, and she said, you have to do it. And what it really afforded us was time to focus on the business and not be distracted with things that aren't actually going to drive your business forward. For Village X, it was a great program because we didn't have to come in to New Orleans. We got to do the whole thing virtually. We were assigned an entrepreneur in residence, and ours was an employee at DoorDash, and he was extremely instrumental in helping us figure things out.
Oh, wow.
They're a marketplace just like we are. So he knew he was seeing things a mile away before we saw them, and he really helped guide us.
So how long a process is that when you're working with that incubator, the guy at DoorDash in particular?
It was 3 months.
Okay.
So it ran from, Village X ran from January till about March or May, and Techstars Austin ran from January to March.
And is that part of a competition, or is that a separate thing?
That's separate.
Separate.
They both have demo days attached to them, which is just, you're basically introducing your startup to the world on a stage, catapulting you out of your local network, which is the biggest reason you want to do an accelerator like that, is just to get more visibility and lend more credence to your startup.
And you're doing a presentation, TED Talkish, and you're telling your story. They're filming it, and then it gets out to the world through social media and them sharing.
Yeah, I mean, some people will watch it live. They'll go on demo days live. For New Orleans, we actually did it in person, so that was a huge event that we had done on stage. And then with New Orleans, we also got chosen to do the Entrepreneur Week pitch competition. So that one was a competition. And
the winner of that would win some money.
Yes.
And so when people are watching the demo day, is there any opportunity for investment through that, or not really?
It's not in the moment. You really can't ask. You can't solicit for investment because of SEC regulations, but you can introduce your startup to the world. Potential investors will come around and find you.
I see. So, speaking of that, you had initially done your friends and family round, but you did a second round.
We did a institutional round in March of 2021, and we did 1.3 million. 1.3
million. And how big were you at that point? What were your revenues roughly annualized at that point?
It was probably, I'd have to guess at this point, 250,000. It wasn't where we are now. We grew considerably since then.
And so, And was that from one institutional investor?
So we were one main lead investor, and then we also had follow-on with Techstars. Techstars invested in that round as well.
Did they? Mm-hmm. And so how does that, how does that work when you're going up to get, $1.3 million from an institutional investor, and you have to make your pitch, right? Mm-hmm. And, but there's also this valuation, right? So you've built something, and tell us how that works.
Yeah, it's scary, right? It's like kind of, people don't talk about it. And we actually had to have a valuation for our friends and family round. And that was actually harder because we didn't have a product yet.
Right.
So it was us saying to these people, we promise we're going to build this. It's going to be great. And we think it's worth this. And it was kind of a black hole. So what we did is, I remember talking to our attorneys at the time, and I said, talk to me like I'm in second grade and explain a capitalization table to me. And they did. And I just learned it over time. And when it came to the valuation, we actually asked the attorney, what are you seeing in this space? What makes sense? And that's how we chose the valuation for that round, which we then built upon for the next round. Yeah.
So for the next round, the institutional investor is going to go, okay, you think you're worth X dollars. And if I put in my $1.3 million, then I would effectively own X percent of your company. And so if your valuation's too high, they run away. Mm-hmm. Right. That seems like that would be a stressful, I've never done that. Mm-hmm. But you're either, I'm looking at an instance where you're going to grow this at your pace, or you can get some, turbo boost with a institutional investor and build out the market, because, it seems like in your model, mm-hmm. as easy as it is to expand into markets, it may be, easy to be knocked off or copied, or, so, if you consider like Uber for me, that's really the only ride hailing app that I have. Why? Because, I only do it so much, and mm-hmm. I don't need a bunch of them. But why do I use Uber? Well, because the name recognition is there, right? So I'm guessing that's the same for Hampr. You've got to...
It's first to market.
Mm-hmm. You've got to get out there and expand it as much as possible. And are your investors pushing that?
They're in early stages. Your goals need to be aligned with your investors. And so they know where we're going and what our vision is for the company, and they're supportive of that. So they're not pushing us to do anything that is not in the business' best interest. I think that's where some people get kind of scared raising money, is that they think it's going to be this contentious relationship and these investors are going to try to run the show, and that's not the case. They are your cheerleaders and your champions, and they are supporting you.
That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you look at, again, your model, you're not asset heavy really in any way. Your employee count is really manageable. Mm-hmm. So you think you could get a lot of runway with that type of investment. So can you see how far down the road it would be before you had a next valuation and fundraise?
I will probably be doing it very soon. When we raised our last round, we blew past our milestones. So we just want to keep throwing gasoline on the fire, because we grew way faster than we originally anticipated, and we're going to sustain that growth and keep it going. So we are ready to just keep exploding.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You must be terribly excited.
It's exciting. It's always something new.
Yeah. How's the stress level in being in a business that has that type of velocity?
It's kind of, for me, we don't take ourselves too seriously. So it almost seems like this isn't really happening sometimes. Like today, the ticker that signifies new members just kept going and going and going. And we just kept looking at each other like, is this really happening right now?
Are you serious?
It's almost like a state of disbelief.
That is so cool.
We don't even get stressed about it because it doesn't feel real sometimes.
Well, you seem like you'd be a fun boss. You seem like you have an easygoing personality.
I hope so.
And so that must be tremendously exciting.
I hope so.
Okay, so let's talk about, as we wrap up, let's talk about what your vision looks like for the future. I mean, if you look out 5 years or 10 years, is that too far to look out?
No, I think that, realistically, I'm looking at I only look at things 2 to 5 years ahead of where we're going to go because we have to be able to grow in that direction. For me, starting a laundry company was never really about laundry. It was about the mental load of busy families, and I want to help alleviate that mental load. So our long-term vision of the company does include other things that go beyond laundry, it's almost like a really trusted TaskRabbit that can help you with things around the house that you need that you just can't cross off your to-do list over time. So that's eventually where we'll evolve to.
Yeah, I mean, if you think of, we all only have so many hours in a day, and you want to make the most of your day, of your life. And if you, can outsource certain things and, it's a good exchange for your time versus the value or the cost rather, it seems to make sense, that people would, maybe it's a new concept to some people, but that they would quickly realize I'm getting my life back. Allison and I were talking about it before the show, and she's like, wait a second, I could get my Sundays back? Yes. That's important. So it's not just what it costs, but the opportunity costs, what it opens you up for, even if that's relaxation and rest.
That's so freeing.
So I was curious what advice you would give to a young entrepreneur, but particularly from the perspective of having enough experience before you start. Because when I look at your story and I look at your degree, while it was in broadcast, but you got into marketing, and it seems to me that your marketing career before you started really, energized your ability to execute on your idea. Mm-hmm. Because, it's almost all about marketing after you get that's my take on it. But so my question is what advice would you give to a young entrepreneur as it relates to having the right amount of experience?
I think that you don't, the passion is what you need more than experience. And we have a flag in our office that says do it scared, because it's a very scary thing to take a leap and go after what you want. And I was terrified the first time that I struck out on my own and tried to do my own thing. And I had a business partner at the time tell me, well, do you not want to do it? And I said, no, I still want to do it. And she goes, well, you have to do it scared. And so that's our motto. Anytime we get scared of doing something, we're like, we're just going to do it anyway. And so I would say, just do it anyway.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. Do it scared?
Do it scared.
Love that. Well, Laurel, it was a pleasure to talk with you. I'm so excited about, what you're doing, and, just the thought of that ticker of new customers going is just tremendously exciting. Those are the things you kind of read about, but you're living the life. You've created it. It's a beautiful product. I love your website and the simplicity of your brand and everything that you've done. So thank you for sharing your story with us, and we appreciate you coming in.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I really love our digital entrepreneurs, but Laurel's story is really exceptional. She has been able to grow her business just in 22 short months to expand it into 14 cities, just really unheard of. But, she was really fortunate. She made some strong decisions. When she was building out her software, she had the guys from DoorDash and the guys from Waiter that had that experience in building out their platform. And instead of going to the minimum viable product, they carried it and made it a more robust platform because Laurel knew it was going to work, because she knew as a mom that she needed that help, and there was plenty others like her. But she went for it. They got it up and running. It's easily scalable, easily expandable. It looks like they built just a beautiful product. I know she's going to be very, very successful. I love how she wrapped up and she talked about "do it scared" is their motto at their office. And when you have that much growth potential in front of you, I know there must be times where it does seem kind of scary. So they're going for it. We really appreciate her coming in the studio. We appreciate you guys watching, and we'll catch you next time. We would like to thank our title sponsor, B1 Bank. They can be found online at b1bank.com. The Next Entrepreneur is produced by Propel Productions. You can find more information at propelyourstory.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the Next Entrepreneur Podcast and hit the bell for notifications. You can also follow us on social media. The links are in the description below.